Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Port of London, or PLA, on I think what's probably going to be one of our best summer days of the year. Because if it gets any better than this, I think we'll be doing well. Please don't forget to put your business card in here. We are going to be raffling it off for a track experience in Paul's car. Is that right, Paul?
Yes.
With you driving, are you scaring people?
Maybe.
Not by your
Not
bad
very
driving, I mean
Yeah.
in speed. But anyway, so make sure you put your card in there, because don't lose the opportunity. Paul is a very, very good driver, very fast. Where did you finish last year in the championship?
9.
Nine, you see, ninth out of 8.
I think it's more to do, probably more to do with turning up for a big race.
Yeah, so anyways, little posters, but Paul's got an MR2, and I think he'd welcome the opportunity to take you around the Brands Hatch.
Yeah.
Is it? So to
We're
take you around Brands
mid-July.
in mid-July, and I've done that and I was scared. So, toilets down the corridor on the end there. If there's a fire, we must go that way, not that way. We will get wet that way, but to go out of the main doors and actually congregate in the car park, please. But don't expect any alarms. And refreshments, sandwiches, and drinks are all next door, which most of you, I think, have managed to locate. So welcome to MSO's Technology Talks. 2 speakers, lecturers, people that are going to teach us something. 2 ladies. So do we not trust the men to do anything? I don't know, actually. Or was it girl power? Sarah Pooley. I don't know how many of you know Sarah, but Sarah is account director at MSO. And Sarah is going to educate us tonight on content and the content strategy, and how it's so important to have that strategy and not just throw all of this information onto these digital platforms we have. And then about the user experience and how you can bring those 2 together. And so overall it creates a much better experience for engaging into these digital platforms that we create. So Sarah's going to be on first with that. And then we've got Joe, and Joe Wimble-Groves is a director at a company called Active Digital. Now, we all carry these things around in our pockets, and how the world's changed. I went to do a university tour with my son a couple of months ago, and they had a picture of a really, really old mobile phone. They asked the students to guess what year it was. And I knew it. My son said, "How do you know that?" I had one 20 years ago, but now they've got smaller, but actually they've got a little bit bigger as well, because I've got dodgy eyesight nowadays, and I think Android and Apple and all of these technology providers now, how apps have made a massive difference. And apps started really for gaming. All the kids sit there with the games, but now apps have really been brought into business and adopted by business really well. And Joe's company have got a fantastic piece of technology that I was privileged to see all these rugby players and how they monitor all their fitness. So anyway, Joe's going to talk about how mobile technology has really changed business and how it is changing. And I'm sure in 6 months' time it's going to be a different conversation, but it is moving so fast. So, Sarah, you're first up.
Excuse me, I'm going to hold on to my mouse and my phone, because I'm going to bore you with some stats in a little while. And unfortunately, my memory is not as good as it used to be, and I can't remember things like I said yesterday. So
What was it about information? We can only store now 4 pieces of information, short-term memory, when it used to be 7. So there's all these bits of information coming in that actually we can't retain.
the big thing, features at the moment, I'm doing just to give you a bit of an intro, I'm doing a Google Squared course, and Paul and myself have been doing this for 7 months now, and the big push is big data, and how do we handle big data, and how do we process like that in terms to help us. And there's so much data that's there, how much information does that ultimately give us? And it's a really big topic at the moment. So that's another aside. That will probably be another talk that I do if I haven't bored you rigid by the time this one's over. But what I would like to talk to you, as Adrian said today, is content versus user experience debate. Now there is a very sort of strong consensus that it was always content strategy. That was where you had to make sure that you had the right website content. That's not so much today. What we're all talking about is whether it's the user experience is so much more important as well. But what I am also going to talk to you about is you can have one, but you need to have both. And it's a little bit like in my household, pancakes are great, Nutella's great, you put the two together and it's absolutely fantastic. But if you put too much Nutella on, everything just goes to pot. So that's really what I want to talk to you about tonight.
Over the rattles outside. Is it a yacht or
So
something
they're
that's
coming
gone
on
by?
you. I know, it's been very loud, isn't it? So it's all about actually formulating a content strategy. So what is more important? Is it content or is it the user experience? Well, that's all very well. It used to be that years ago everything we were pushing that the content ruled, and it still does. That's very, very important. But you need to think about your long-term objective, and that's why when we come in as a web company to actually talk to people about their websites and say, where do you want to go in say 2 years' time? And it's get you there by not only looking at content but also looking to provide a seamless user experience. Now, in order to be able to do that, you need to understand exactly who your target audience is. And whereas it used to be the way that you had one type of audience, that's not the case now. We've got to think about different user journeys. So if I go here. Again, this is content is king, and this has been the byline for probably about 2 years now. But also you need other pieces on the board. You need web usability, you need to think about the interactive design. Are you going to give people a nice enjoyable experience? Because you ultimately want people to come back. There's no point having a website that someone looks at and they say, well, that's okay, but I want to actually find out more. I want to come back and actually see how it's developed, how's it evolved. It's so important. And when you think about information architecture, what does that mean exactly? Well, that's the art and science of actually labelling a website. So that's when we look at the buttons, we look at how the navigation works, how much navigation do you put in that site, what do your call to actions look like, what colours are you using? All of these have such a key input into what people then feel about your website, and that they actually want to then come back. And you have to be up to date. You can't just say 6 months ago I've put a load of content on and that's sufficient, because it isn't, and we all know that search engines, and particularly Google, will penalise a site that isn't relevant and isn't up to date. Here's my first stat, so bear with me, bear with Paula. Okay, this one is by Sitecore. Now they did an experiment and asked marketers and end users how important was it for you to have up-to-date content. And there was a 20% shift in rating, whether it was high or not, and whether it was worthwhile having up-to-date content, which is mad because it was the end user that was saying, I want up-to-date content. It wasn't the marketing department. So if you're not giving people what they want, then really you've missed the first trick. So that's what is so important, to make sure that you're putting good, relevant content on regularly. That is really, really important. So have you got a content strategy? Well, I'm not going to read this out because it's pretty obvious, but what we're trying to do is, if you haven't got a content strategy, you can start thinking about a roadmap for the content that you want to apply on your site over a set period of time. And as a business, we all get busy, we can't do everything we want to, week in, week out. If you can actually, most business owners will say, I haven't got a content strategy and I don't know where to start. So if you can plan over the course of, say, a year, think about it as in terms of being seasonal, Christmas time, Easter time. What sort of content do you think you could plot over that period of time, and make sure that you try to keep to that timetable? And as hard as it is, and we have the same issue at MSO, don't we, where we're trying to keep content up to date, but at least it starts to get you into feeling as if you're in control. And this is what I'm hearing from a lot of clients, where they're saying to me, I don't even know where to start here, it's just too big an issue. So let's start small, start putting things into a calendar, into a diary, and then see what we end up. So how do you actually approach building a strategy? Well, this is probably the hardest point for people to actually try and get their heads around. And there was about 18 months ago, I suppose, I went to up at the Google headquarters, and it was for a meet-up with content strategists. And I remember sitting there thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know who these people are. Most of them were journalists, but they knew that the web and the way that we had to present content was changing. And that was what really hit me, was the fact that if you don't have a strategy and you're not thinking about it, you have to then try and put these things in place. So if you follow these, what I would say is probably the three main key points. Define your main themes or your topics, so decide what you want to say. Prioritise that message. So if you're a company of long standing, you've got a pedigree. Every time you put content out, reiterate you've got that pedigree. Make sure that your underlying message is saying we've been around for a long time, because the people that are coming to your site, or getting your newsletters, or getting that content, will familiarise you with that ethos. And then you're building your brand, and your website is such a huge marketing opportunity for you that if you're not doing that, then again, as I said, it's so easy to keep that up to date and to do it that you're actually going to do yourself a huge disservice. Also, decide on the length of the content, and this is quite important, because if you find that you've done analysis and you know who your end users are, if they're time poor, don't put a load of information on the site, on particular pages. Yes, on the pages of content that you want to rate highly for SEO, but not on every single page. If people haven't got time, you want them to make sure that they will come back to your site and carry on reading. And also sticky or slippery content. Slippery is the latest term. What we used to say was sticky in terms of you want people to find a page of content, like what they read, and go to another page and stay within your site. So it was actually getting that engagement and people finding content that was interesting and that was relevant. We haven't got the time to do that. What you want to do is to see if you can build on content that is slippery. Can you use that for a white paper, perhaps? Could you then condense that? And could you then put that into a Twitter feed or a Facebook article? Or could you put it on LinkedIn in a slightly different way with a different voice? But if you can re-engineer that content, and because we are all-time poor, we haven't got the luxury of having full-time content authors. So it makes more sense to see how much of that content you can actually re-engineer. And what type of content works? Some of you in the room have seen this, because this is my matrix that I absolutely love to death, because it just makes so much sense. What we're trying to achieve here, and this was first designed by Social Media Insights. So unfortunately we haven't actually put that down as for copyright. You have it, all right, that's good.
It's on here.
You haven't seen this, okay? But no, what we're actually trying to do is get people to think a little bit differently as to making sure that your content resonates on an emotional level. Ultimately, what you want to do, you want to raise awareness. You want to get people to purchase, and by purchase I don't mean as in e-commerce or transactional. It's getting someone to do what you want them to do. That could be filling out a form or submitting to a survey. So what you're trying to do is get someone to convert from the point of awareness to purchase. And if you can get them to actually, if you can communicate to them on an emotional level, before they actually relate to you on a rational level, the hard work is then being done. And that is what is so crucial. So if you could pick out of all of these 4 boxes, one type of that content, then you know that not only have you entertained someone, and I don't mean entertaining by standing up and doing a comic routine, but if you've got them engaged on video, you then educate them by giving them the actual data that they're expecting from you. Convince them by giving them the data or the case studies, which is really important, and reviews. I mean, you think about how important that when Amazon they were way ahead of their time by saying, actually, we know that by putting reviews on the site, we're going to build that engagement and we're going to actually improve the number of transactions and the number of purchases that have been made, and they're absolutely right. Now, I tend to use Nike as an example for this, because Nike does absolutely everything, and most of the the big multinationals have as well. But I think that still applies for SMEs. I don't think that's any different. And this is one thing that we try to do at MSO. If we can actually try and provide the content for all of those 4 boxes, then we're doing a good job. So before I go into sort of the user experience, it's now saying, oh, the content is great, now what do I do? Well, this is where you've got to make sure that what you're giving your users actually is aligned with your business objectives. So there's absolutely no point in saying, I've got a fantastic website, it looks good, but I'm not actually achieving what I want to achieve as a business. So it's really, really important that, and I can't stress this enough, that once you've got your content, make sure that's aligned with your goals. Make a list and a checklist of the goals that you're trying to achieve through your website, through your company, through your marketing. And once you've achieved those goals, keep on track that the content that you're providing is aligned still with those objectives. And also refer to other sites when you're thinking about the content you want to put on your own site. Why do you like sites that you like? Is it because it's the content? Is it the user experience? Is it because it's a seamless experience and you're engaged and you enjoy it? And it's bringing all those 2 together and thinking about, right, okay, well we can do the same on our site, but you've still got at the back of your mind, I've got to make sure that I'm achieving what I ultimately need to achieve from the website. And that is so important. So how do we define what a user experience actually is? Well, it's how people feel and what they think about your website. And it's looking at every single aspect on the site. So it's looking, as I said before, it's like looking at the buttons, looking at your colour palette, looking at where your calls to action should be. And this is something that I will cover when we're looking about mobile experience. It has to be obviously a seamless experience. It can't be too clunky. Don't ask people to go through with too many clicks. And that is quite a challenge in itself, because you do find that you have lots of content that you want to take people on this journey, but make sure that the information that they're looking for is in as few clicks as possible, and that is key. So in terms of really how we define that, you need to then think about the user journey, and this is where I will come up to, is talking about there's so many user journeys now, we can't just rely on that one to gain conversion. You have to now start thinking about lots of those journeys. So I have got what I think is a process to ensure success, and it just helps me when I'm thinking about what content we need to be advising people about to put on their site. And it used to be the way that building websites was the seller's market. We'd be able to say that, Adrian, right? That you could build a website according to what the business owner liked, and the website owner and their opinions, and I like that colour, and we could then say, well, we could do something really fantastic and wow to support that, because we were showing off as well, and it wasn't as competitive as it is now. Everything has now shifted. It doesn't matter what the website owner likes to some degree. It doesn't matter what we as web developers want. It's what the user wants. And because we've got this complete shift, it's not a negative, it's just a different way of thinking. We've got to get into a different mindset now. So in terms of where we start at, let's have a purpose. What are you trying to achieve? Think about your audience. Who is your audience, and how are we going to define them? Think about the content. Also think very carefully about the design and how you're going to put that content into as nice a design as possible. And then think about the technology that is going to support the content that you're putting up there. And I always think that simple is far better than anything that is too convoluted, because at the end of the day, you're looking at technology. People don't want to have to think too hard. So we have the ethos, don't make me think about it. If you're asking someone to think about what the next stage should be, you're not doing it right. As long as the technology is very subtle, then you will make sure that you're going to increase that level of engagement from your audience. And this is the bit that I love, and it is surprising how many of us don't actually realise this is going on, but it is. And if you read what Albert Einstein said, he's so right. We need to start really applying website logic to the emotions. And we all like to think that we're rational creatures, and we all say, yeah, when I'm researching something, when I'm going to buy something, I know that I'm making a rational decision. It's not true. And I'm going to give you another stat here, which you might be quite surprised about. Now, this is that the university in Virginia has worked out from studies that 90% of us decide on an emotional level to make a purchase before we've even read any of the details. 90% of us. That really gives you the answer that we need to be now thinking about website content and ensuring that it's engaging. And if we can then make sure that we've got people hooked from an emotional level, then we can start talking about the rational. But let's hit the emotional first. So when we think about telling a story, because we are human and we're all wired, we are not. If I were to stand up here and just rattle off a load of stats to you, no one would retain that information at all. We are not wired to take that information in that way. If you tell a story, so for example, on your website, you want to promote yourself as a company, you did X, Y, Z in a certain period of time, put that into a case study, and people remember the case study, then remember that, and then they will then by association, they will say, okay, well you've convinced us that you know what you're doing. There was something that on the lecture a couple of weeks ago, on my Google course, and the lecturer was saying that at Great Ormond Street Hospital, they had all the kids that were wired up in critical conditions. The one thing that the head paediatrician was so worried about, he said, I've got these kids that have just gone through a nightmare operation, they're all wired up. Something is, we need to get them back on the ward, rewire them, and it's taking too long, it's too critical. He worked out that on average it took every child to rewire them, take everything out, put them back, get them back on the ward, took half an hour. Now, I would never have remembered that, but if I hadn't then heard him say that what Great Ormond Street did was they got Ferrari Formula 1 team in, the guys that changed the tyres and the wheels, and they said, what are we doing wrong? There's something, obviously, we need to cut the time down here, and this isn't working. They halved it, so it now only takes 15 minutes to get those kids rewired. Absolutely unbelievable. But again, it goes to say, you tell a story, you remember it. And it's so important. And so it's like understanding your audience as well. If you understand your audience, then you can make sure that you target that content for them, and then they'll come back and they're engaged. So what I'm going to show you now is some quite clever things, and this is part of what is called persuasion architecture. And all of us relate to this. It's the path of least, it says least effort here, but it's the path of least resistance. It is the make it easy for me and don't make me think about it. And the fact that I'm actually engaging on an emotional level means I haven't even thought about it at all. So the way we can get that on websites is, of course, your imagery, make sure visually it looks good, and have visual cues, whether that's implicit or whether that's explicit. And the next example I will show you is this website here. Now, they are renowned for being very good on having a stunning model with lots of jewellery, because the idea is you look at her first, but then you look at the jewellery, and what I think is very subtle, look at her hands pointing. So you wouldn't even know that, but it's that, well, I know I need to click there. They've changed the font size, they've changed the colour, they've put it into capitals. But not only that, they then turned around and said that you're going to get 20% off anyway if you click through here. They do this, if you go onto this website, it's regular. They know exactly what they're doing. The one I saw before, they actually had a diagonal cut straight through the homepage, because we were looking at her, and then there's a special offer here. It was very, very clever, but so subtle, you don't even know they're doing it. And this is another one, it's a heat map that's been applied to this ad, and the guy that's put this on his blog, he has studied this, and he has said, you've got to look at the baby. I mean, the fact that you can't see the baby's face really is irrelevant. The fact that baby on the left, because it's looking at us, that's where our eyesight goes, that's what we're looking at. No one read the message. No one looked at the ads and thought, yeah, okay, we know what they're talking about. When they changed it and had the baby pointing to the message, the amount of heat that was generated, so the number of users that then clicked on that message.
And
as a
so
result
the
of
red
that.
is the concentration of
That
users.
is, yeah. So it's just, sorry, I didn't explain that, but
No,
yeah,
no.
it's so subtle that you would not even, if we saw this one on its own, you wouldn't know until you had that as a comparison. It's very, very clever stuff. This one again, this is for a dating website. So we read first of all what the model is saying. Very, very plain, quite clinical I would say. But what ultimately they want to do, they want to sign up. They want people to go on and click on that form, and then we match it up and obviously pay an arm and a leg to sign up. But the directional key was we're looking at first of all her, and then we're saying, right, I know someone needs me to put my details in. And everything else is very subtle, apart from this I would say, but then that's what they're doing. If we go back to what we were looking at, the content marketing matrix, that's the reinforcement, that's the reviews, that's the, now we're saying we've got awards for this, and we know what we're talking about, and we're a good site, trust us, and we know what we're talking about. So that's just to give you some idea as to how you can use it. Sorry. So when we're trying to think about, there is definite conflict between content and user experience, because you do find that people say that the content has to rule. What we're trying to do at MSO is to reduce that conflict. So it is very much about, you've got good copy, very good content. Think about whether on that content, sort of your headings and your subheadings, and make sure that when you are putting content up, don't conflict with SEO or the user experience. And you'll find that SEO strategists will say you have to have 400 or 500 page words on a page in order for the site to be successful. It doesn't always follow. We try to have a happy medium between the two. It's just you populate pages that you want to rank well on search engine results pages and search pages, but also it's really quite key that you think about actually getting people to engage and getting them to do what you want to do. So look at each page in isolation. Try not to have one home page and then a content template just showing your content. People get bored, they don't really want to see that. They want to have engagement and enjoyment every page that they go to. And then think about the look and feel on various devices, and think about how a site should look on responsively. Does it scale down? Does it look good? Where are your calls to action? If you think about what can look perfect on a desktop, once you scale it down, your calls to action are further down the page than they really should be. So if you want to get people to engage with you on social media, then on a desktop, we've got to start now thinking about putting those icons further up. If you want buttons, if you want someone to sign up to your newsletter, while it might look fantastic on your desktop, right down the bottom right, you've got a bit of extra space, that's the obvious place for it to go. That won't work on a mobile. It's got to be key, it's got to be up front. So it is trying to, it's quite a challenge, just trying to make sure that you're keeping every device, you're aware of every device that you're actually working on your content on. I don't think I've got a stat for that one, but I just need to check, so possibly I'll do it. There we go. Okay. And one thing that we have done on the MSO is that we now try and sit down when we're doing content, we sit with the developer, the content author, just to make sure that we are all working off the same sheet. And that is something that we've, over the last 6 months, we've tried really hard to make sure that our website, and since we have released the new site, is working really well, because we all sit together and we work out and thrash out what is the best way to present that content. So how can content strategy benefit from UX and vice versa? Well, these are the 3 main benefits. Obviously, clarity and readability. Better information architecture, you're getting that's underpinning your content, so it's actually working for you. And this is where it's key, is customer centricity. It is now thinking about your customer, thinking about the journeys that they're taking, and ensuring that what you're giving them is exactly what they want. And because we are now, we're in the millennials age, everyone is more technically savvy, and they're telling you exactly what sort of content they want, so you have to listen to the people that are coming to your site. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through each of these quite quickly. terms of clarity and readability, how important it is to remember that people scan, we don't have time to read anymore. If you're going to write something and you want to make a point, don't put it at the end of the content. Think of it as an inverted pyramid. So your summary should be right slap bang at the top if you want to make a point. People will come back after they've read that page, but if you have a real message, then make sure it goes at the top. Put meaningful headings. Also, I would say make sure that you put enough white space between your content that people are they need rest areas. It's really quite key that when your eye is being focused on one page, if it's copy, they're not going to read it. You want to put visuals in there, but also put a nice degree of white space in there as well. That is really helpful. And also pitch it perfectly. I don't know how many of you know this, but writing web content is quite an art in itself, and you have to appeal to a 14-year-old. So if a 14-year-old can't understand it, then forget it. And there is something in Word. Anybody heard of the readability score in Word? You can actually switch. So it's a little bit where you have word count, but you can then select readability score, and it is something that is called the Flesh Reading Ease Test, and it counts up how many syllables in each sentence that you've written and how many words in each sentence. And if you have too many syllables and too many words, you will be penalised. So you want to get a score about 60 to 70, but Word does it for you. It's there, but no one knows you actually to be able to use it, and it's quite a useful tool. It's just a bit unfortunate.
Again?
So it's called the Flesh Ease Reading Test, but it's called a readability in Word. It's called a readability score. Yeah, and you'll be able to find it, and it will go through. Just look up Word, just Google it, and you'll be able to find it. So yeah, it's pretty important. So there's another stat that I've got, and it was by the Nielsen Normal Group, and they were studying how many people stay on the site once they've looked at your page of content, or 2-3 pages of content. They only stay around in total about 10 to 20 seconds. That's the only time that you've got left to make an impact. So when you think about the amount of content that you're putting on your site on a particular page, if they can't read it in 20 seconds, is there any reason for you to be having it there in the first place? Possibly not. Information architecture. Just wanted to sort of go over this in a little more detail, because this is a benefit between content and obviously years experience. Having calls to action, as I said before, having them in key places. Colours, think about carefully. Also think about the mobile perspective and how they're going to look, and also the position. So as I said before, if you're going to look on your website from desktop down to mobile, sometimes there could be a really good argument for not having an image that's on a desktop on your mobile, because you're asking people to scroll. Do you necessarily? Do you really want to put your calls to action right at the bottom of a long scrolling process on a mobile? But having said that, we all know to scroll. That's not the issue, and we find that developers and content writers will make sure that when you're asking people to scroll, that you've got visual cues as well. So just a few arrows here and there won't hurt. So now this part of my presentation, I'm going to talk about being customer centric, and this is where we've got some sort of new up and coming stats that are quite interesting as to why we should be customer centric. And it comes down to the user journey. People are finding your site through the day, morning, afternoon, at work, on different devices at different times. So you need to think very carefully about all the different types of journeys that they're making to find your content, and ensure that it's a seamless experience. As I said, as few clicks as possible and not clicking. But this is something to give something first to get something back, and this is called conversion optimization. And if you want to try and build up a database of visitors to your site, you want information. Say, for example, you want to build a database for newsletter sign-up. If you give somebody something, they are more likely to say, okay, equal value, I'll give that to you back. And Gap is very good at doing that. They only ask, if you want to sign up to a newsletter, you only have to give them email address. That's all they want. If, however, you want to get 15% discount Their form is like that long because they want to capture all of that information to be able to then retarget that audience at a later date. But they get it because they give you 15% back. So there's the value proposition. I'm going to give you this and you give me that. And it works every time. So that's something that I would say to everybody that's got a website. If there is some way that you can get a bit more information to help you function as a business and to build up your database, then think about giving something to somebody for nothing. It doesn't hurt at all. And this is when I'm going to go on to Generation C. Has anybody heard of Generation C? So I told you. And
I'm just up to date.
I know. God, I'm so impressed by you, really. And Generation C, it's moved on. It's slightly different from the millennials. Generation C, 80% of Generation C are made up of millennials. These are people that have never known what it's like to never have had the internet. So you're talking about being born in the late 1990s, 2000s, and there's a bit of bone of contention. People don't actually know when it started. But I would say for most kids, they don't know what it's like not to have the internet. Millennials are very tech savvy. They tell you what they want, and you have to provide it, otherwise they won't come back. So these are the people that you really need to be thinking about. And they want, and I would say it's a mindset. So it's not a generation thing. It's not you couldn't say we're too old. I've got a phone, so I would be classed as Generation C. Anyone that's sitting here with a smartphone would be Generation C. But we are now, all of us, saying, I want to get involved in the creation of content, I want to be getting involved in connecting with people online, and I want a sense of community online. So it's, again, going back to what I was saying about emotional engagement, we are now all demanding so much more from our online experience than we ever did before. And you might be sitting here thinking, well, should I care? Well, yes, big time, because even in the States alone, these guys have got so much influence, buying influence. They account for $500 billion of sales turnover a year in the States alone. You can't ignore them. You can't ignore us. This is what we're all demanding, really, as consumers. So this is Generation C. I'm going to go through what they're made of. So again, it's a state of mind. So 80% of millennials they make up YouTube's core, which is then a strong argument as to why you should be thinking more about video, because this is where these guys hang out. This is where we all can. I do. I'm at home and I've usually got YouTube going, cats and dogs and that sort of thing. And it's just something quick. Whereas I'm working, I've just got YouTube constantly. It's always up. And on Facebook, and if the girls at work share something on Facebook, 9 times out of 10, we're all on YouTube. We just, that's what we do. Paul, you sent around something yesterday on YouTube, and it is just, that's what we do now, isn't it? Quick 5 minutes. So this is where if your audience is here, this is where you need to be.
That's how you consume content.
Yeah, you do, because we haven't got the time. It has to be, video is so much more engaging, and rather than reading
That's
content.
one thing. Everyone here, 3 years ago, who used to buy a newspaper? Stick your hand up if you bought a newspaper. And now, how many buy newspapers? No. Sunday Times. Yeah. But that is how we consume information, isn't it? So maybe we're all entering that Generation C, because that's how the Daily Telegraph offers for holidays and everything. It's all changed, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think I probably read newspapers now to relax. That's downtime for me now. Whereas it never used to be. That was I wanted to keep up to date with the news.
But most people using newspapers are moving on to the tablet version.
Yeah.
You go on the trains in the morning now, or viewing tablets. Somebody was saying even Metro, the free London newspaper, is struggling. It's free.
Seriously? That's interesting. So yes, it was Generation C strives for expression, and we can all probably relate to this. We want to put videos up of our nearest and dearest videos, and this is important that 67% upload their own photos to social media network, and it's just a part of that's being wanted to be part of the community. And this is what it's that social interaction. And I moan at my kids and say, can you talk to me? Can you get off your tablet? Can you get off your phone and just talk to me, just face to face? But is that just not me being a dinosaur, they are still socially I know, John. Thank you. Well, I think I do feel like a dinosaur. But is that such a bad thing if they are still socially interacting? Or do you disagree? Do you not think that they're interacting? If they're on their phones and they're talking to their friends, that's still social interaction, isn't it?
I called my daughter for supper the other night. She didn't come down, so I used FaceTime, and she answered it.
I said my daughter text.
What's all that about? She won't. You shouting, but actually use FaceTime. Yes, what do you want? Supper's ready. Why didn't you come down? But it's.
I got a text the other night that was. I looked at it. I want a hug. She's only next door. She really wanted to get off her backside. And so, Mum, I want a hug. So, did you want me? Yeah, I want a hug. But that's her way of communicating. That's what she does with her friends.
Because communication like that is second nature. Well,
Yeah.
why not type it on your phone or do that? Because it's in the palm of your hand.
Precisely. It's
Why
easier.
expend
It's easier
energy
to, do
to
that.
actually do something or walk next door and find you're not there?
No, she's going to lose the use of her legs one day.
Where changes. It's not Generation Snail then.
And as I said before, like 500 billion influence on spend, and Generation C is a tastemaker. If you think about its peer-to-peer influence across the likes of Twitter and Facebook, and stats do show that if someone is on Twitter and says, I endorse this product, their friends are more likely to follow. Same on Facebook. Say, hey guys, you've got to look at this, and they will definitely look at peers for that approval on whether or not they should convert it. So that's no different to a transaction. So it's like getting a buy-in for a website.
And it's probably why the student or children are moving away from Facebook, because their parents are moving onto it now.
Yeah, correct.
So they don't actually want to be on Facebook.
no.
Yeah. Because they need to get off there because their parents are crowding the space.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is us. This is Generation C. Generation C defines the social network. This is important. If your audience is on a social network, then you need to be on it too. And one really key phrase that I heard a while back was establish if there is a there. If your audience is active, and you can find this out on sort of the stats and the data, where are they talking most? Where are they being vocal? It could well be it's LinkedIn. I mean, for the Port of London, for example, we'd probably say for Port of London, LinkedIn is going to be the best channel in order for you guys to actually find out who that audience is. But Facebook is something that we try to plug because we want to push our creativity. We want people to like us, and we're a fun group of people to work with. Facebook doesn't work for B2B necessarily so, but B2C, yes it does. When I work with the Event website, which is high-end French products for women, and the amount of likes that they have on Facebook is absolutely phenomenal. And all they're doing is just getting people to talk about the product. They're not offering anything. Very rarely do they offer free products, because you can get that by the website. What they are doing is saying, we want to build a community and we want you guys to talk. We're just going to be the conduit. That's all we want to be, but we want you guys to actually engage on that side. So if you find out that your audience is active on Facebook, then obviously target them. But then there's no point putting content on there if they're not there, or it goes without saying. Just because everybody else is doing it on that particular channel doesn't mean to say it's right for you as a business. So that's one thing that we do try to advise people and have a look around and see where everybody is talking most. And this is why video is so important now, with the fact that Generation C is using YouTube as its habitat for entertainment. And that is key, the fact that many of us really watch TV anymore.
The BBC Trust have recognised that actually they've got a huge problem, because there's the big thing about the licence fee, and should we pay a licence fee now for terrestrial TV, which actually yes, we all love iPlayer. You don't need a TV licence for iPlayer, on your tablet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I find this next stat actually quite important. The fact that YouTube has the same reach on the smartphone as it does on desktop, so you must think about how that experience is on a mobile just as much as how it looks on a desktop, because they've got both, so you can't afford to be to the detriment of the other. You've got to make sure that you're putting content on there that is perfect on whatever device you're using. And this is what I can relate to. 91% of us sleep with a smartphone next to us. That is me, unfortunately. So Generation Z still value relevance and originality, and what is quite interesting to note on this stat is that if you do want to put ads up, people are quite receptive to ads as long as the content you put up isn't too generic and it is relevant. So it's another way of thinking of perhaps as a marketing ploy, should you be thinking about advertising on social media. We tend to boost posts. If someone is sharing an article, then the very fact that they're sharing it means that it's obviously something of real interest, so boost that post and broaden your reach, and that makes sense. So don't boost a post if no one's reading it. So if someone's engaging on a video that perhaps you posted as a company, then that is something maybe advertising across those channels is worth thinking about. And I'm drawing to a close now, but obviously remember the elephant in the room, which is Google, and we can't ignore Google. And they're in the news today, aren't they? They've the EC statement of objection. Have you heard about that? Yeah. So they're in big trouble at the moment. But we have to think that in Europe, Google takes up 90% of the market share. So you have to make sure that you're putting good content on. It's like a baby. Your website evolves and it grows. You have to nurture it and you have to feed it, and you can't ignore it because Google will penalise you if you don't. They are also going to next Tuesday, which is 21st, they've spoken about doing an update, and this update is going to be pretty fundamental. We don't know quite what, but the very fact that Google has actually said that they're going to do an update, most of the time they keep it very quiet and we don't know until after the event. What they're saying now is looking at mobile searches. What's the experience? Is it mobile? Is your site mobile friendly? If you've done a search on Google, and if it's not, you will be penalised. So they're pretty cut and dried about it. It will happen. So you need to think, obviously, about making your sites responsive. And also think about how you are writing, how are you setting the tone of your content as well, because Google, they did a Hummingbird update and they were looking actually at sites in context. So if you had a human element, if you was more naturally speaking, if you write how you speak, Google rates that very highly. This is where it comes down to how do you write good website content, to write it as you speak, and this again goes back to making sure that you're looking at your readability score in terms of a 14-year-old. And also then thinking about Google and how they're doing searches now, whereas years ago it used to be a few keywords, key terms you put in. Now we actually ask a search as we would speak. So if your site is actually answering that, then you're going to be higher up in the search engines research.
And for dyslexics like me, Google even corrects you.
So very finally, here's the to-do list. Offer information of value, think about devices and load times, and on a mobile, if your site doesn't load within 3 seconds, people will leave and they won't ever come back. That's 3 seconds, that's all you've got. So you've got to think about image size, which is going to obviously take up a huge proportion of time,
there is a conversation now that actually mobile sites load faster than desktop because people's mobile home connectivity is better than at home.
Yeah.
You get 4G on your phone and you go home, you live in the sticks.
So it's also thinking about telling a story, as I said before. People love being the centre of attention. People like to be the subject of a story. So if you can bring that into your site content, that's fantastic. Be customer centric. And I think also what we're trying to do is by combining good content with a fantastic experience, you're going to achieve that your users become your advocates. They talk about you, they share you, they then get people to go back to your site, and it's you're just going to keep boosting traffic. So it is about giving people what they want. And the latest buzzword now coming from Google is that it's not digital marketing anymore, it's experience marketing, and that you're talking about what people want and how they get it, and that is what is more important than whatever we think as website owners. It's what the people want, and that's what you need to give them. So I hope that has helped. I try to think of content as the song. I was trying to think of a really good analogy, and what I could only come up with, think of content as a song. You don't need a full orchestra to keep that content looking fantastic. You just need one really good instrument that keeps it tuned. And as long as it's tuned, you'll have a perfect experience for everybody. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have an enjoyable.
Over to Joe. who's going to enlighten us, teach and inform on the world of mobile.
I will try. Good evening, everybody. Really nice to see you all at this lovely location. I'd like to firstly thank Sarah, Adrian and all the team at MSO for inviting me tonight. Why am I here? Now, we're actually a brand new client to MSO, and Sarah contacted me and said that you were doing this event, Technology Talks, and being a communications company, which I'll come on to in a moment, it seemed like a really nice fit for us to basically come and tell you a little bit about what we do. But what's really close to my heart is obviously seeing the crossover between what the guys at MSO are doing with web design and what we're doing with smartphones and tablets, and really how crucial that user experience on all different types of devices shouldn't be overlooked. It's really, really important. So much so that, as a new client, we've actually had to put our hand up and say, do you know what, our website isn't good enough. Now, we can develop our own websites in-house, but we're so busy developing apps and other things that we've actually, as you probably are in your own companies, whatever you want to do for your own self, you're so busy just concentrating on your own business that you can't really, get the time to do things like a brand new website that needs a bit of time and needs a bit of effort. So Sarah's building 2 websites for us, really excited. The first one for Active, I hope that it will be ready within the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks. So if you get a chance,
3 or
so
4
you
days,
remember.
Sarah, for the Google update.
I'd love it to be done by the end of April, but when it is ready, I'll make sure Sarah lets you know, and we'd love some feedback. Because as you're going to see in a moment, I'm really passionate about our company. It's a company I started with my brother Richard 18 years ago. We've been in mobile a long time, so we've seen so many changes in the industry over that time, as you can probably imagine. Technology is not getting any smaller, and it's also just changing so much, it's really keeping us on our toes. So our industry and our company is very vibrant at the moment. So let me give you a few images. Now I apologise, my presentation isn't as slick as Sarah's, because that's not what I do for a living, but I will do my best. So this is what it feels like at Active Digital. So we're a business mobile communications company. We put our customer at the heart of everything that we do. We primarily have a very good relationship with Telefonica O2 and have done for over a decade. We've been their Partner of the Year on a number of occasions. And what we do is we service manage the contracts. So for customers like yourselves sitting here who have mobiles and tablets, we basically sign a contract with ourselves and O2, and the network does its job, but we manage you on your day-to-day. And we're very passionate about giving business customers a fantastic service. And we've won a lot of awards for it, as you can see here. So say Partner of the Year on a number of occasions with O2. This guy down here is someone that we get on very well with, which is Ben Dowd, who's a business director who's one down from Ronan Dunn. So we get on really well with Ben. He's very passionate about business and very passionate about new companies starting up as well. We're very pleased that we have quite a good relationship with a lot of rugby teams. There's a couple of people in the middle here on this picture, which is Owen Farrell and Richard Wigglesworth, who both play for Saracens, and obviously Owen is the England fly half, but he's injured at the moment, as you probably know. But having influential people coming into our company is really fantastic to see. Okay, so I know I'm badgering on about awards.
You're very good at them, Joe, I have to say.
I've just got back from Las Vegas because we picked up another international award, which is great. So, what makes it so special? So it's all about the experience, and again, that's really coming on to what Sarah was saying. So we provide a product that everybody needs. We sell a product that everybody has in their pockets probably tonight. So what's really important is when that goes wrong, or if it's not working efficiently and you need support, we are that go-to company, and we've done very well at looking after businesses of all sizes. So the smallest client we might look after might have something like 5 mobile phones, up to our largest clients where we service around 3,000 mobiles. So we look after, say, a lot of sports teams, which you'll see in a moment. We also look after quite a lot of pharmaceutical and NHS trusts as well. So it is a real diverse range of clients that we are managing. And you'll see a lot of the awards that we've entered are all service related. And one of the really important things for our new website is, I'm going to throw loads of messages at you today. So I'm a perfect example of what Sarah was saying. I come in and I tell her all these amazing things that we want to shout about, but the content has to be right in how it's really going to be made up on that new site. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Sarah can do with all this, really. Okay, so just talking about the ambassadors again, because we've got these fantastic people that support us in our business. My brother is very pally with Steve Backley, who's actually It sort of comes from the area, actually, Bexley Heath. And we're seeing a lot of interesting stats about performance in the workplace and performance in sport. So quite a lot of the things that we tend to specialise in is what we're seeing in rugby teams and how they're really using technology and mobile to actually help them to perform better. So we've done presentations with Steve in the past because, as you might know, obviously being retired from the javelin now, he does a lot of corporate speaking, and we are seeing so many analogies on that level at the moment. And what's also interesting when I think about Owen Farrell, and I have conversations with Owen, and we talk about things from historic or history, and I had a conversation about Kenneth Williams and people like that, and he's nodding, but he said, "Joe, I have no idea what you're talking about." And I have to remember that he's in his early 20s, and I just because he's so tall, and I just assume that he understands what I'm talking about. But yeah, he had no idea what I'm talking about half the time, just showing my age. Okay, I'm boasting again. I apologise. But we do have really great clients, so it is all about that experience. So when we deal with people like British Cycling, so from Dave Brailsford down, if you can imagine, head of performance, what Dave says goes. I get a call on a Sunday afternoon from Dave. I think one year when he had the Sports Personality Awards, I think he got the Coach of the Year, got a bit overexcited, had a few too much drink, lost his phone. I get a phone call. And it's me that sorts it out and makes sure that he's on his desk the next morning when he goes into the office. And that's the sort of service expectation that we provide, but also what Dave expects. So from all of the British Cycling Federation, we do work with Team Sky as well. Iron Maiden, we always love throwing that in there. But again, it's a business. Bruce Dickinson, he will give us a call. Give Marissa a call as well. Very well spoken, I might add. And they are, taking phones on tours. Things get lost, and the most important person that owns a mobile phone that you might not always think of at Iron Maiden is press officer. And the press officer is the most important person to make sure they've got their smartphone and they've got everything that they need wherever they are in the world. Curtis Brown Talent Agency, look after the likes of sort of Robert Patterson and other actors like that. Caterham F1 team, I should have mentioned that, shouldn't I, Adrian? We have a really nice relationship with Caterham and have done. They were actually one of our first customers as well. Birdseye, really good client. Sanofi, one of the top 5 pharmaceutical in the world. Do a lot of work with them, and some other well-known names like Tiger, Feel Good Drinks and Crew Clothing as well. So I touched on a little bit about what we do, but this is where it's really important to explain how much our industry has changed. So when we first started our company, we sold mobile phones, simple as that. So we struck on a market where we could provide a really good support service to business customers of any size. But now we've expanded to provide all of these services. So starting from the far left there, you've got mobile voice and data solutions. In a nutshell, that is our core business. But then all of these have ended up being strapped onto our organisation, which is where our website has begun quite clunky. And Sarah was trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of what do you actually do. So we've had to really strip back and think, mobile is our core. It will always be our core. But we don't want to, not sell all of our other products as well, because, they help us to be, definitely not one-dimensional. It helps us to be very versatile in everything that we're doing. The data support is part of the sort of award-winning backup. We get a lot of rugby players contacting us. If they've lost their device, they're worried about it being backed up or just getting that technical support. Fixed line and broadband, again, some people are moving away from fixed line where possible. It does seem a little bit old-fashioned, but for many of us sitting here today, we probably still have fixed lines in the office. So as long as there's a need, we'll continue to do that. And for us as a business, it's great, because if we're selling the mobile and the fixed and the broadband, obviously it makes our customers a bit stickier because we do more than one product. We should also mention sort of Office 365. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later, but everybody uses Microsoft. So we're seeing that Microsoft 365 is now adaptable over tablets, over different devices. So it is about giving everyone the right experience and giving everybody the right products and the right tools enabled to do your job over any different platform. App development, again, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but apps are everywhere, as Adrian quite rightly said. The market is booming. There's some great stats that I can share with you a bit later, and it's so important that obviously we have to develop our own apps. We probably wouldn't be innovative if we didn't. So we've had some really fantastic work that I'm going to show you in a little while. Mobile device management, I think that's really important to talk about that. So if in your organisation you're giving company mobiles, if you're giving tablets, you really need to think about how you're protecting those devices. So what happens if they get lost? Is there any core sensitive information on there? But it can be smarter than that as well. So if you're the CEO of a customer company and you might think, right, I really want to encourage well-being within my organisation and I've got 200 people, I want this particular app downloaded onto everyone's company iPad, and you will do that through this product. So through Mass, I push one button and everybody will get that app. That's clever, and that's where it gets really smart. So that's the sort of thing that you can do through Mass. Or you might say, I don't want people using Facebook on our company devices. Through that portal, Facebook won't be able to be downloaded. So we can concentrate on making sure that it's a business product and you use it for that purpose. Mobile forms. I had a couple of interesting conversations earlier with a couple of guys here about paper, saying you pick up a newspaper, but we have so many forms and bits of paper in the office. Now, you're going to always need paper, but there are certain things that you can do, and we actually have our own mobile form solution if anyone wants to come and talk to me about it later. We can create a form for anything. One company, we do a gutter company, which sounds quite ordinary, but they drive around, they fill out these forms, they drive around the van, and the paper gets more and more stacked across their dashboard, and they have to go back to the office. The invoices get raised for the client, that information gets fed into a CRM. It's all very lengthy. Now we have a form solution, which obviously they have that on a tablet, they capture everything they need to do. It's a lone worker as well because it's GPS stamped, so from an office perspective they know that they're safe, and they also know that invoices get paid. It can be capture signature. It's all done, straight back into the CRM. The person sitting in the office, it's all done. So whatever type of business you are, there is a form that's available, and we can make things a lot easier for you guys. And the device and training, one thing we have won a lot of awards for is the experience from start to finish. So if we are giving out products, it's really important that we just don't send you a massive box of phones and you sort yourself out. We actually do a lot of on-site training, which we do on quite a big scale. We've got companies over 9 different offices, so we can visit over 9 different offices. We do workshops like we do here, up to 25 people in a workshop. A lot of customers obviously changing from BlackBerry, mostly to iOS is the trend that we've set. So from people going from using a QWERTY keyboard, there's some people in the room that said, I've never used a touchscreen smartphone in my life, so you're going to have to help me out. So we've got a real variety of clients that we're trying to work with, and making sure that the experience they get when they leave that room is that they felt like they really know how to use that device, they know how to use it really well, and they'll basically get the right experience from start to finish. Okay, so we talked a little bit about apps. So 75 billion apps have been downloaded. And one of the things Sarah and I have talked about that's really interesting is, obviously the game market is where it all started. But the biggest growth in apps at the moment is business apps. And you might not think that. Obviously health and fitness, it's all up there, but business is the biggest growth. So one of the things that we're involved in is obviously building apps for different types of companies. And again, I'm going to come on to that in a few moments of what we've been up to. But there is a big demand there. Okay, so this is what we did for Saracens, and I apologise that it's a bit blurry because it's on a black background. So my brother went up to see Saracens when we sort of started the relationship, and one thing he noticed that they were doing is once they finish a game, they all sit down, they sit with all the coaches, they sit with the head of performance, and they basically get handed out a lot of paper. It's basically how they've done, how they've performed, the match analysis. They then have their nutrition, what they need to be doing in the gym, and obviously the next game that they're going to be playing, what that opposition looks like, what are the tactics, what's the strategy. Lots and lots of paper going around. And as you can imagine, you've got a lot of 20-year-old guys, like, not really that interested, probably playing on their phone. Sounds a bit harsh when I say that, but you get my drift. It's a lot of paper that they need to read, they need to digest. So was there a better way for those coaches to connect with all of those 20-year-old, the Generation C? There a better way for them to get really that detail into those guys? So what we did is we created an elite performance app. And what that actually does is all of the information that was on that paper is now in here. We have a player profile. So each profile has basically got all of Owen Farrell's stats. It will have different things about his health. So he's going to be red, amber or green, depending on what his fitness levels are. He's going to have all his nutrition, what he needs to be doing in the gym. He's also going to update every single evening if he slept well, has he eaten well, has he got any injuries, is he feeling good, and all of that will be uploaded every night. The other good thing is that when it's match day, or maybe a few days before match day, one of the head coaches perhaps will send out a notification to all the people that are going to be going out onto the field first of all. That will all be popping up. They'll be able to know who's seen that notification, who's read it. So there's no emails pinging out, and I hope that they got that. They know straight away what's being done, what's being said. But what's also really nice, and again this is the crossover between sport and business, is they have a wolf wall, and their wolf wall is all about motivation. They have a lot of motivational things on there, motivational videos, and they have that playing. They have guys, you know, they might be saying, "How are we doing? We're in Dubai," and then they'll be jumping off the, or into the pool, and it's all just fun, but that's what they're doing, and it's about the feel-good factor. And Saracens, it's a winning team, and this app has been now adopted by a lot of rugby teams. My brother is very busy, probably more so than he ever thought he would be, because the RFU has seen this, liked it, and said, "I want every Premiership team to have this," which is a massive endorsement. But it just goes to show how getting in touch with Generation C, thinking of what they use, what they need. Another really good example is GB Taekwondo. So Jade Jones, another client of ours. Jade, when she first became a customer with us, 19 years old. Okay, I text her, I need to talk to her about her phone, she hadn't put her direct debit on or something like that. Can't get hold of her. So what do? I message her through the app. Does she respond straight away? Or I tweet her, she responds straight away. This is how we need to connect with these athletes. So Active Connect. What we wanted to do was thought, well, hang on, this is a really great product that we've developed for Saracens. Could we do something like this for ourselves? And this is all quite new, so you're seeing this quite hot off the press, but this is something that we want to roll out really this year. So what we wanted to do is have a look, okay, well, why don't we create our own app for Active Digital? It's our own portal. We might as well ping notifications to each other. I don't need to text my staff. I just basically use this icon here. I can send a message to one person, I can send it to multiple people, can send a message to everybody. The performance wall is Richard and I put in videos, we upload messages, and again it's about motivating people and really motivating them to do really well, to do the best they can, to work hard. Any rewards, we have things like Golden Joker Days where they can leave early, they can, they always get their birthdays off. There's lots of incentives that we do. We just had a bowling night. I was terrible, a bit upset about that. But there's lots of things. So we've got our new Active Does, which I need to tell Sarah about actually. So Active Does, but Active Does lots of different things. So we've done Active Does Saracens training is next. I'm a bit worried about that one, but it's all about really connecting with our employees, because it sounds very simple, but we know that happy employees means happy customers. It really is that simple. So within the Active Hub, we've obviously got all of these different items. So what we've got for people who are out on the road, or for our account managers, obviously they'd be looking up within like a shared folder as you would do on Microsoft to look at different types of documents. But we've got everything within the app. So Marissa is with a client. He says, "Can I have a copy of your latest price list?" She goes onto our app. She's got everything right in front of her with a touch of a finger. Staff whereabouts is really good. I think staff were a bit wary about this at first. They're like, "Oh, they know where I am," but it is really helpful. And actually, the staff said it's great because they can track my brother, which is very difficult to do. So we know we've actually expanded this a little bit more now. But it's who's in the office, in the car park. There are pool cars, by the way, sitting in the car park. Remote working. Again, we want to encourage more flexible working, so we know who's working from home, who's on sick, who's on holiday. You can expand it as much as you want to, but we've actually found that really, really useful.
So Joe, sorry, you track people from their mobile phone?
Well, they have to update their status,
yeah.
So everyone gets to see each other's status. So if I decide that I'm just going to work from home in the morning, or Marissa might, she'll just update her status, and it would save me walking around the office going, "Has anyone seen Tom?" Or I know automatically where people are. And what's really nice is the people on reception. Louise, we've got 2 receptionists, but Louise in particular is very conscientious, and she'll be saying, "Has anyone seen so and so?" because they haven't signed in. Again, health and safety, we need to make sure everyone's accounted for, but she will have a look on this first now. So it's quite obvious that they're working remotely. She doesn't have to worry about it. So I think, yeah, all the tools are there, but it's been really, really useful for us.
Joe, sorry, another question.
Yes.
Could you do it by GPS on the device?
We probably could do, but again, it's taking it a step. It's how far we want to take it, where the staff feel like we're not tracking them. But again, this is nice because it puts they are in control. They have to update, and we really try to encourage them to update their own status. You're always going to get the odd couple who don't, where we'll be walking around the office because it says they're in the office but they're not. So we really want to encourage, but everyone has got a lot better.
I imagine for the PLA, it's you've got a lot of people on the river, and actually
Well,
it's crucial to know where those people are.
Yeah, particularly we've got 100 marine pilots.
Right.
You've seen the ships go past today. There's one of our guys on there that basically guides the vessel along the river, make sure it doesn't run aground, crash, all
Sure.
those nice things,
Yeah.
But we want to know. I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot more we can talk about. But
Sure.
it's interesting to know if you could, because we've got guys that are out in the estuary, in the far reaches of the Thames. They want to know for health and safety
Sure.
reasons, and lots of other sort of.
Yeah, I'll find
stats.
out again. It'll get you in touch with our sort of technical team to say how far we can take
push
it.
Yeah.
I say because we built this for ourselves, we haven't actually deployed this for any customers yet because we didn't want to rush it. And I say that's why I say you're my guinea pigs really to have a look at it and tell me what you think. But we've been really pleased with it, and it's really nice to be able to show our customers. And it's also if we're pitching to new clients because we can everything is accessible and say if we're in technology we have to be showing it and we should be using it in our own company. We can sell it, but we've got to use it first. Okay, to talk a little bit about changing mobile market. A lot of this you've probably seen in the news, but it is pretty big news, so we do need to cover it today, I feel. So lots of movers and shakers in the industry at the moment. And when you were talking earlier, Adrian, about carrying the old mobile phone, 1985,
Yeah.
Vodafone made the first phone call, first mobile call, and now we've got a situation where Vodafone are going to be the smallest network. Vodafone were always the biggest. We're Vodafone, we're very powerful, we're very dominant, and they're not now. So BT and EE merging together, I say we work really well with O2, but we do have some clients on EE and a little bit on Vodafone if they're very, if that suits them. You can't put everybody into the same box. But this is, it's a pretty big deal. So they're going to become quite a large entity. O2 have an agreement with BT Wholesale, so it's quite interesting to see what that's going to happen with the Openreach side. Again, I mentioned that we have clients on the fixed line. But yeah, it's very, very interesting time at the moment. Obviously EE is very strong on 4G. They started a year before the other networks, so as you can imagine they were always going to have a head start, but they're covering about 70% UK population, where Vodafone and O2 are covering about sort of 45%, so they have got a bit of traction to catch up there, but it is definitely improving. And one thing that I can confirm is you might have noticed that the networks have been a bit up and down lately, all across the UK. So one thing that has happened that you might be interested to know is the Beacon project between O2 and Vodafone basically came together to share their networks. Now, for two organisations that pretty much very dislike each other, for them actually share networks, what they needed to do is they've got to build better networks. So from 1985 onwards, you can imagine networks are getting a bit old, a bit clunky. They needed to upgrade 2G. 2G obviously carries all of our voice calls. 3G is the data, 4G is faster data. So 4G is 5 times faster than what you experience with 3G. So this network collaboration, it's a massive piece of engineering that they've had to do. They're stripping out old equipment and literally stripping in new cables. So during that time, there's been a lot of maintenance. It's already been going on for about 18 months. In Maidstone, there's 23 masts, 18 have been done, but we've got clients in Maidstone that are really suffering. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to have no signal, but the chances are it's going to be very up and down. So on behalf of the networks, I apologise. I'm not compensating, but I apologise. But it's been a very painful experience for some clients, but it has to be done, and it needs to be done, and people need 4G, and they need new equipment.
Joe, does 4G have the flexibility that they want, or they're going to have to do 5G?
5G will be next, but I'm hoping that given the infrastructure and the upgrade that they're doing, they'll have better fibres and better cables, and perhaps it won't be such a big job. But yeah, splitting the country in half, O2 saying we'll do this half, you do that half. to Vodafone. That has been what's happening. But they have done a lot of work, so I really hope people do start to see a lot more improvement. So just talking about O2 again, the toss up with BT was going to be either with EE or O2. They chose to go with EE, which arguably was a more complicated buy, as you probably know. But obviously O2 didn't want to be left on the shelf, and what's happened is they've ended up collaborating with Three. Now, as you also might know, Three Ireland also was O2. So again, you've now got Three in O2 and Ireland, and O2 are now going to be the largest mobile network in the UK. They're going to control 41%. So EE is currently the largest, but once this goes through, O2 or 3 or O3. I don't know. I'm making it up now. This company will be the largest mobile network.
Register that name, o3.co.uk.
You heard it here first.
Make yourself a fortune.
So that's what's happening there by, I say, the very wealthy man, the wealthiest man in Asia, who owns Hutchison Polar. Okay, so the industry is changing. We've talked about that. And these are the 4 key trends that we're starting to see. So everyone is adapting to the cloud and finding that you need to put more things into the cloud. Mobility, again, it's about being very agile. It's about having more access to information on the go. Again, this is where MSO really come into their own. Your website, everything that you do within your company needs to be really focused around different devices. Being very social. You said some very interesting stats about the power of social media, and you're right. I mean, for us, Facebook doesn't really work for business to business. I find, yes, okay, we can get a few likes, but I don't think that's really where we are. But we're quite heavy on Twitter, quite heavy on LinkedIn. That works for us. It helps us with the engagement, but you can't dismiss it. And big data. What do I mean by that? Again, I apologise because Sarah touched on it earlier. But it's about capturing a lot of information all the time. So wherever you're going, any shop that you go in, where have you gone, how old are you male or female, did you buy anything, what did you buy, did you not buy it, why did you not buy it? So this is all the information that they want to capture without you even realising. So it's quite scary really, but very, very powerful stuff. And I've just got a few stats on mobile. So again, the market is just insane. It's growing at an incredible rate. China and India in particular are just having phenomenal growth at the moment. But it just goes to show how much we've really got these devices in our hands. You know, the 90% of text messages, you read them pretty much straight away, which is probably why it's a very powerful tool. And mobile phones have officially taken over PCs, which is probably going to happen. That happened in 2013. And we're on our mobiles more than ever. So much so that making calls isn't actually the main purpose of using our phone, which sounds quite interesting. So does anyone want to have a guess at what the main thing would be on your mobile phone? It's not for calls.
Using data, using search.
It's all about data. So text is the number 1 item, and then 2 is basically browsing.
Joe, has text increased or decreased?
I think things like WhatsApp. So again, it's all about using data and using free free
data
free
seems
services.
to be over. I know
Yeah.
internet or it's sort of 34%, but I could see that overtaking.
Yeah.
That data usage overtaking texting.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about FaceTime. My brother's away at the moment, and he's FaceTimed me quite a few times today instead of ringing me.
Yeah.
And this is that shift.
Yeah.
Scary. He just wants to see me. He misses me. Didn't admit it, but it's true.
But the O2 and Free amalgamation, the Free were very, very good at data.
They are.
Data,
so
aren't they?
we see this as a real positive. Because obviously with BT tying up with EE, we wouldn't want O2 to be left on a shelf because we've got quite a big partnership with them. But yeah, I think one thing that Free have is a good data network. So we think this is great because now that O2 have got, they've got a pretty strong mobile network. I mean, we've got lots of other stats that obviously I didn't bring with me today, but from the root metrics reports and some of the recent reports based on all that hard work they've done over the last 18 months, it's looking in pretty good shape. I was talking to a guy earlier, wasn't I? We talking about Vodafone, how much you dislike Vodafone.
Yeah,
Again, talking about going from being the best network, everyone wants Vodafone, to now, it's not like that anymore. Okay, so what's hot? Wearable technology. We have to talk about it, right? So, I like to run, just done Paddlewood Half Marathon, personal best, quite happy with that. But what gadgets was I, wearing? Got a heart rate monitor on, got a phone on my arm, which slows me down, I'm sure. I've got my Garmin, I'm all set up, I've got everything I need to help me run faster. I didn't run with Google Glass, so I think that's been discontinued. But, what's it all about? So, obviously, Apple are really trying to corner the watch market at the moment, and there's some very interesting stats out at the moment to show that they're actually really shaking it up. The watches, as you might have seen, they do vary from sort of £295 up to £13,500. But Marissa and I had a conversation about it at work, because she's like, who's really going to buy this? And I said, well, take me as the example. I've got my phone, I've got my heart rate monitor, I've got my watch. I can have everything potentially on one device. So that's what they are trying to do. So let's just have a look at it. So this is the latest this week. Apple have already wrapped up 1 million pre-orders in the US, and it's not even out yet. They can't even get hold of them till next week. So yeah, it's very, very interesting time. So I think, would I buy one? I think I might. Apple, they're so seductive, it just sucks me in. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I know.
That's changing, isn't it? Next week it's going to be a different story.
I know, I might get one now. I've got my other one. I'm going to have two. It's going to be like running with my watches.
I don't need one because I've got my Garmin and now.
I think it's different though, Jo. I think that they've got to be quite careful how they market this rather than keep pushing people with information, because that's just going to alienate if you feel that they're just trying to sell you something. So it's got to be that health conscious.
Yeah, and there's an emotional attachment. You see, I've already bought it. I haven't even seen it.
Which one have you bought though?
Terrible. Yeah, I'm just like, here's my car.
You're going to walk past the pizza shop and your watch is going to vibrate. It'll say 15% off today, and it's probably a reality because you can see that 15. Oh, crikey, 15%. You ate, the last time, looking at your blood sugar, the last time you ate was 6 hours ago. It's time to go for a pizza.
Oh, I like that. iPhone 7, obviously I don't know what's going to be released, but I'm just speculating really. So Apple, they normally launch a couple of devices in September, so we think that's probably what's going to be happening. But what was interesting is this new Force Touch technology that they're putting in the watch is likely to probably go into the new device to give everyone a better experience. Joe.
It's like you two talked before this.
Do you know what, we didn't? It's spooky though, isn't it?
But that's why the companies are sort of merging together, because obviously what Joe and the team can offer now is actually really integrated into because now this whole digital world is sort of merging into how we consume TV, news, print. It's all merging in.
Yeah, we're
and
consuming
that degree of
so much.
separation is getting less and less now.
So just to finish on the devices side, it's all about the curves. So obviously it started with the Curve TV at Mobile Congress in Barcelona, which Marissa asked if she could go to, but you're probably going next year. It is all about the curved devices. Samsung have obviously released their Samsung S6 curved device, and then the LG Flex, that was actually released, I think it was out last year actually, but I think that's still going quite strong. So the idea is that whether it's in your back pocket or whether it's on your holding onto the side of your face, it basically it's
and apparently
you.
this phone was designed by a 13-year-old child who sat on their new phone and it bent and took it back to Apple and said it's bent.
Well, there was only 9 reports of Bengate out of all the millions of iPhone 6s that were sold. Okay, so just a few more slides to go. Digital really is the key to mobile working success. So what's really important is for us is having the conversations with people like yourselves that are in business, and you're thinking, that flexible working is encouraged more than ever. But I know it doesn't work for all types of business, but if you do need to work from home, or if you do need to work from a cafe, and you want to be able to give your staff the right tools, what's interesting is that quite a lot of people that were involved in this particular survey found that they would love to be able to do that, but the company is not giving them the right tools to enable them to work in a more flexible and be productive at the same time. So then they feel that they need to come into the office in order to get access to the files that they need. So this is definitely something that's happening at the moment, and something that we want to have more conversations about, to help people to stay more connected, to really increase that productivity and to improve the service. So yeah, good example of a guy here, he has a tablet, he's got everything that he needs on there, and he's mobile and he's able to walk around and capture data while he's doing it, and he's not stuck to a desk. So very interesting in making sure that you are investing in technology, giving people the tools that you really need. So 365, we are a registered partner of Office 365. And as you know, you've obviously got the Nokia brand. It's very sad. Nokia is no more. You might know that. I felt quite upset when that happened. But it is now Lumia, the Lumia range, which is owned by Microsoft. We spend quite a lot of time at the Microsoft office in Paddington, which is very nice. They said I'm welcome there any time, so I just go and perch myself there quite frequently. But they're very, very friendly. They're a really vibrant company, and you can't underestimate the power of Microsoft. A bit like what you said about Google, because everybody uses Microsoft, and there are a few people floating around that are still using Lotus Notes. But
We've got a couple of clients.
a couple of clients that just haven't taken the job. Most of them are banks, I think. But huge market share of Microsoft. So of course it makes perfect sense that if you buy a Lumia device from us, we would strap on a 365 license for about £3.50 a month, and you can have everything that you need. On that device. So Marissa is my expert on 365, which is why she's wearing red today. If anyone wants to go and talk to her.
And then 365 is accessible on any device that you choose to use it on then?
Correct. And what's really great is O2 are Microsoft's sort of largest partner. They won like the global Microsoft Partner of the Year. And what we've even negotiated, which is great, is two major selling points really. Firstly, our price is cheaper than Microsoft directly. Really great. And secondly, we add it onto your O2 Blue bill if you're an O2 customer. So again, it's really good from a cash flow perspective, because you used to always buy your licenses, you go buy them in the packs and you buy up front. Don't need to do that anymore. So really good for business of all sizes, where it's manageable, it's on your mobile bill, it's on your phone. And the Lumia devices are really great if you haven't had a chance to look at them. Again, we often do events, so if you're interested in coming to an event, do let us know. But they do really good sort of demonstrations with all of the devices, and they're very affordable. Again, iPhone is very expensive to deploy across companies. I mean, we had one client who did quite a big changeover from BlackBerry to iPhone 5C. They took about 1,000 of them, but you can imagine it's a big investment, a big decision. But sometimes if they're global organisations, they'll tend to follow what the other country may be doing. But they have been, again, they're investing in technology. They've made a commitment. They've got the mobile device management that I mentioned, so they've got complete control over what goes on that device. And they're able to get all of the services and all of the apps that they need. So that is me. I hope that was insightful, interesting, and so I'm going to be hanging around for a little bit, so if anyone wants to talk to me, please come and see me. Thank you very much.
So ladies and gents, if you've got any questions for both Jo and Sarah, please shout.
You mentioned the BlackBerry and the keypad. Do you think more will go in the way of voice activation?
Obviously you've got Siri, and I don't know if you've seen on the Lumia devices Cortana, which is the rival for Siri. It doesn't quite come across, but actually if you use it, or if you get a chance to try it, it's really impressive, and it's much more intuitive than Siri. So if you're interested in something like that, I would definitely buy a Lumia device, because Cortana is very good. So we might say, okay, one for you, Adrian. Remind me to buy flowers for my wife on the way home. Yeah. It will say, I have set you a reminder, Adrian, to buy flowers. And as you were walking through London, it will say, you are now approaching a flower shop. Adrian, don't forget to buy flowers for your wife. And if you
That's a note to self now, isn't
and
it?
then if you
Don't
miss
do
that
it
shop,
enough.
it will tell you about another one. If you missed that shop, I can tell you about another flower shop, which you can also see on the way
Can you
home.
hijack your husband's phone and leave other notes?
Do you know what?
Normally, if they buy flowers, we say, what have you done? You know, so you can look at that two ways, can't
As
you?
a,
Why are
as
you
a
buying the
test
flowers?
on the way home, I'm actually going to do that because I've never tried it and I've seen the adverts. And I do need to try it because I forget stuff. I get so much in my head. This sort of, only remembering 4 things. One is buy beer, drive home, remember to eat. But I will try that. I will try and buy flowers and see what happens. And I've been very surprised with the 4G though. How fast it is compared to my network. I live out in the sticks and my broadband is rubbish really.
Yeah.
And how now you can have content on a mobile device and a good
So
screen.
we do little pop-up devices as well, which are really popular. So you can connect up to 10 devices if you're in 4G. So for construction companies, when they, they're popping up in a hole basically in the middle of London, it takes them a while, especially with BT, because they're going to give them a few weeks lead time. We send them one of these pop-up devices, probably running on 4G. Up to 10 people connect up to their laptops. Done.
Will the 4G network have better coverage? 'Cause, I don't know, it's very frustrating where I live. I can't get a signal, so I'm sort of like walking around the house trying to get a better signal. In this day and age, we shouldn't have to do
So
that.
2 things. On 2G signal, which is your main sort of mobile signal, you might have seen a report in the BBC recently that they are going to invest more heavily in rural areas because a lot of people, well, there are a small amount of people that still don't even have broadband, isn't there? That they need
Yes,
to
there
cover.
are.
But as well as trying to really help people that live in rural areas. But it is such a catch-22. I mean, one of the things that we do is obviously you give us your postcode, we'll be able to tell you what's in the area, if anything's being done, if anything's likely to improve. It's an area of natural outstanding beauty. It's very difficult. I mean,
But the thing is that the maps say that you've got excellent coverage.
I know, yeah.
No, the
Bit
reality is
misleading.
really not.
So we can tell you how far away your nearest
Okay.
mast is, and then that might be able to tell you if it's, or whether it's going to be likely to be improved. So every week we get reports on. So what customers really want is information.
Yeah.
So people get a bit upset if they don't have information. So every week we get a report, which we do. We have our scrum meetings, which is all of our team coming together. So the rugby theme continues. In our scrum, we will talk about what areas the network is working in. So everyone's got their ears up. They get a customer in Guildford and they remember that they're working in Guildford this week, which is probably why we're getting a few more phone calls from our Guildford customers than normal. But what we can try and find out is, what disruption it's going to be, how long it's going to go for, how long it's going to go on for. Likelihood is it's only a couple of days and then it's done.
It is also sometimes the building itself that blocks the signal coming through though. If you've got a particularly old, thick-walled building, then it's likely that it's the brickwork that's stopping the penetration.
I moved from my last house because I had big thick walls. I wasn't
Yeah.
getting now this one.
Yeah, or if you're in a glass or particularly metal building, that will stop the signal. But O2's 4G is on the old analog TV signal, so that will penetrate buildings better. So when it does get to
that was what I was trying to get at.
it should be better.
So 4G networks should be better.
It should be O2 signal, because it's on the analog TV signal, should penetrate the buildings better when it gets to you. If you wanted to let us know your postcode, we will know.
I have noticed since moving to 4G actually that I can get 4G coverage better than I used to get 3G coverage, which I was quite surprised about actually. So
It's because it's the frequency that it runs.
right, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Obviously, I'm interested in the river. What's the coverage like in the outer estuary? Well, I can tell you what it's like, but I'd like to know what you think it's like.
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head,
No.
but I say we can do research.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know because we've got some equipment that uses data connections
Okay.
to receive GPS signals and
Yeah.
so on, and we're getting some real problems. We've had some real problems in the last few
Okay.
weeks, so it might be the network coverage.
Okay. What network are you using?
We're using dual SIMs. We're using old Orange ones and
Right.
Vodafone.
Okay.
So to try and counteract the.
Yeah. We'd always be happy to lend you an O2 SIM if you want to borrow one.
We're an O2 customer already,
Okay.
and that's why we didn't go with O2 because
Ah.
they were not very good at it. But yeah, it's
We'll see what we can find out
it's interesting
across all of
the
them.
coverage. The other quick question: 4G, is it got less? Is it less strong than 3G? I mean, is it right that there has to be more transmitters with 4G to get the coverage?
Possibly. I'd have to check that out, to be honest.
Because
It does-
I'd heard that. But I wasn't-
Okay.
because
I wouldn't like to say. I'd have to check that out. I say they all run on different frequencies, but
I didn't know if it was a weaker frequency, so it needed to be boosted.
I say going back to what I mentioned earlier about O2 and Vodafone, you know, they've got quite a lot of catching up to do anyway. So they're covering about 45% UK population at the moment, but say EE are the more dominant at this time.
Yeah.
Probably adding to MSO's workload, but one suggestion is you mentioned about your scrums and you get all the information from the networks. That's something you could publish on your site and give people a reason to visit.
Yeah.
And you can start off with just having a feed, but then you can even increase that by adding sort of Google Maps ability and then people put their postcode in and see how close they are. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you, that's great. One thing Sarah said is we really want to, so we mentioned about price lists, client spots, obviously we publish a price list every month. And not just that, we've got a box at Twickenham, so again, with the rugby, we also have corporate membership at the O2 Arena. People always want to know what tickets are available, and again, it changes every week. So we thought if we have a client area, which Sarah's building for us now, we could put all of that information in there rather than sending stuff out on bulk email, which is probably what we would normally do. Newsletters, again, we send them out via something like MailChimp, which is fine, but again, which we can get, we get stats on it and what have you, but I think we might as well just put everything into the client login because it is pulling everyone back into the site. So, no, you're absolutely right, that's going to be a growth area.
I think you're showing with your rugby app that there's a tendency to actually create these portals now and bring all of these different data feeds for your business into one portal. So rather than having to go to different places, it's all there in one place. Because people only have to remember one username and password, and that's it.
we have Channel 4 have just rebranded 4OD to All 4. And they've been working on that for about 3 years, where they were bringing in all their Twitter feeds and having that on a separate app, and now they're trying to encourage people to just go to one place.
To aggregate it down.
All 4. Yeah.
There's too much information. There is too much information.
Right?
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, any more? We'll go to the pub then, are we? Thank you very much. Thanks for attending.